right, hey there guys, Sam here with you. It's Friday, March 1st, early afternoon, and I'm going to take a look here. I've got ZRX, or Ox to the dollar. Now, we'll get to this in a second here. I've got it over here on Coinbase Pro. But first I want to tell you why I'm looking here. So, now this is a site that I've referenced before, and I've mentioned it several times. I have absolutely no affiliation with them. I just like the way they organize their data. So they have their own algorithmic scoring system that they use here. And I'll let you come over here if you're interested and do a little due diligence about how they score their coins. But, you know, we're looking for a trade, much like I was, I'll come over here and I'll rank them by their algo score because I'm curious to see what comes up where. Interestingly, Bitcoin is not at the top. Bitcoin is way down, was it 15, 16 down here. Number one on their scale is Ox here. If you're analyzing, if you're sorting here by the algo score. Excuse me. So we have the highest algo score for Ox. Right? So let's go ZRX. Let's take a look at it here. So it's been getting some media lately with the addition here. We traded on Coinbase Pro. So if you step back and look at the whole thing, it's as ugly as all of the alts. I mean, it ain't pretty. But we come down here. There is some technical trading here that I thought might make it worthwhile. As to the count here, well, shit, I don't even know that it matters much. But we do get, so I have some structure here that I can work with. So, you know, 0 is not too far down there. So whether it's an ABC, again, I can get a count here that works. I've essentially got a 3 pivot swing. So, you know, again, I'm not trying to lean necessarily into a long-term count, but I've got some structure here that I can work with. So as I look at this, I can get an A, B, and I can finish with 5 down for the C. I've got some pivots here that look interesting to me. So if I pull from this pivot to the A here, well, it's a little shallow of the 50 here. We're not quite on the target, so it has me, you know, want to keep looking, checking for things that might be interesting. You know, so this I'm using a secondary pivot that puts us right at the golden zone. If I use the most obvious one, we have this wick through, right? So here's the closest pivot. So I can see an impulse in that A here. Then I get a three-way B. I've got one wick that goes through the golden zone. So potentially it's a candidate for a 2 or a B. Going up that, and it's very short-lived, but look how precise we are on the target. So algo stays with it. I mean, who knows, right? But we get second target here. Hard to say, but that gets my attention. So, well, then if I've got 3 pivots like that, I want to see, do I have any market geometry that could be helpful? And when I see that, well, let's get it right on there. When I see that, well, now I'm definitely interested. So I've got technical trading. I've got a reaction at a secondary algo target instead of median lines. And there's been a decent pop off of this. So there's enough to be going, okay, I'm interested now. So I see some technical trading, looks like potentially some algo trading in here. So let's go look at it. So with that established, I've got a technical low. That's about all I can say right now. I've got a technical low down here. So coming off of this, well, it hasn't been gorgeous, but there's a count I guess we can come up with here. Let me pop this here going to an hourly here. It's not gorgeous, and it's a bit of a, you know, if you were looking for a trade, you may not script it this way, and there's probably multiple ways that we could count this. Now, of course, the obvious thing we'd pull just from swing high to swing low and note where, you know, so you look and go, well, why do we stop there? That's all right. So here's the reaction at the 50. Here's the reaction at the golden zone. So we can be fairly certain that we've got algorithmic activity in here based on that. Now, they're not to target yet. That target is down here, 19 cents. So could there be a leading diagonal here off of this technical pivot? Well, this is technical, this is technical, this is technical. So you got, it's kind of a judgment call here. Do you think we've got a low here? Could this be some sort of an ugly ABC into a pivot here, and we're going to drive down? Well, if you're bullish off of, well, could be you've done some due diligence. Come over here with the high algo score. Well, there's enough news related here to attract interest. Volume is picking up. Could there be something here? Well, I say, you know, if you're an optimist, you might see your leading diagonal there. So I can go 1, 2. I've got a very odd-shaped 3, but so with a diagonal, we want to be looking for a 4 between the start of the 1 the pivot of the 3. So you're looking for it right at the 50, and we come and we break it by a tad, but we're just sitting right in that sweet spot. So could we get this kind of a move out of here? We're going to need to get up to a new high in this off of this range to give us the albeit a bit unusual structure here. There is the potential for this to turn into a leading diagonal, which would give us a motive wave or potentially a one wave to set up something larger. So if I'm just going to use that as the target. So excuse me, if we get something like this, we come down, we get a decent 2, and then we start to go, well, then you get more comfortable with the idea that we had a leading diagonal there. Yeah, that's a judgment call. So you're going to have to want to trade in here. So you can see it kind of lends itself already. If I just do it this way, it lends itself to a channel. So if we're going to hold here, now you will recall that I show you this a lot. So you've got kind of a weird ABC here that you're getting in this triangle, but or pardon me, in this diagonal. But because of that, this is a pattern that we know the algorithms like. So this ABC down to a technical pivot here, if we're going to get that, something like that, it may, again, I'm just free drawing here. I don't know when that's going to get there. But there's potentially a bullish trade here. I like it better here against the dollar than I do against Bitcoin. The chart's just much more ugly. So that's a candidate. That's a reasonable trade, relatively low risk, so you can trade here and buy on the other, pardon me. You could be a buyer here at the 50, stop on the other side of the 65, so relatively low risk. There's a decent risk reward there. So if you're a buyer going into the weekend, which, pursue that at your own discretion. We often see volatility on the weekends, but something like that to just, you're trying to get a single, there's 3.6 to 1. You're not swinging for the fence, but this has the potential to complete this diagonal, give us that structure. Then I might be a little more aggressive and more optimistic, because if we had something like that, then we'd pull up here. Now you've got a nice fat zone for a wave 2 if this is going to come down. So you've got that capability here. So additionally, I'd be looking for median lines here. So let's pull that off here. Is there anything we can work with? So just off the, just us always start with the basics here. Do I have anything there? Well, that's going to be too steep. That doesn't look quite as good. So I'm going to check modified shift. Modified shift, just recreating the channel. So I guess keep working with pivots and see. Let's go back to original. Well, that kind of gets my interest. So let me tighten this up here. So this is, am I on that right there? All right, so that now it's getting more interesting. So look here as we identify the secondary pivot. So if this is 1, 2, and this is the A, B, C of the 3. Now if, emphasis if, and we've got the 4 here. Well, note here we're on the lower parallel here, staying right on that trend line. Now we could break here. We have the trend, the channel trend line as well. If we pull this down a bit. Here, so I'm using the upper pivots here. If get that down here, if I can do it without squishing it. There we go. Okay, so this area here, obviously, was something significant happened here. So that's a nice intersection of the geometry as we hit that. So you'd be curious as to whether or not you have any fib relationships there. So just standard thing you do with any 1 through the 2. So just looking for points of confluence. So if I bring this over, now this gets interesting again. So look how technical we are here. So from the swing of the 1 projected from the 2, we get a technical pivot at the 100. So here's your 80%. All right, so here's your corner pocket. Whoa, oh, pardon me. It's actually here. So you have a deep, because we're using the secondary pivot. Come here, please. There we go. All right, so there's the tag at the 100. We get the retrace. That gives us the second pivot here. Now we go 127 to the tick. So this little pocket up here was extremely technical. And look at the reaction we got off of that. So if that's going to set up and kick here, well, then we might, so 1618 would be up here. So if we're going to return to the median line, so you got a little bit of a fib fight. Now you can draw this a couple of different ways. So if you're going to leave it here and work, that's what I would do. So I would, on the assumption we're going to hold this lower parallel, I'd be looking for that move here, knowing that I've got an algo target up here, and that would complete the complete the motive wave and give me a leading diagonal, albeit an ugly one, but it gave me a leading diagonal off of this low, which I know was technical. So I've got a candidate here, and I've got a roadmap here that these pivots have all been relatively technical. So no reason to change this here. Well, you might draw again, so I'd want to check all of these to see. All right, so that's kind of interesting. So note how you're getting a secondary channel here. So we've got the dominant one, but by putting a second one off of the 2 to the 4, you get sort of an interior channel here. So it'll be interesting to see how this responds here. So there will be some impact here as we hit that median line. Do we blow right through? Well, as we know from trading principle number 3, if we don't pivot right on the median line, we'll cluster around it and hover as the market decides, or who's going to win, bulls or bears. If they push through, then they're likely going to the upper parallel. So we'd have this intersection between the larger degree median line and the upper parallel. So this becomes a reasonable target. So put the whole thing together. Yeah, I can do that. We'll get our targets here. All right, so notice how we get this nice cluster of confluence up here. Boy, trading be rough today. All right, so we get a nice target, a nice fat zone here, a technical target where we have this nice confluence. So we got our 1618, we've got our negative 23.6 algo target, we've got the complete potential, right? It's only just potential to complete that leading diagonal with a 5 at a technical pivot, which is tagging about 4 different things at once. So on top of that, right? So we gotta always check. We know this was a perfect tag. So what's the resistance from above? So I'm just going to grab the big pivot. So here we did that one once. So that would be, here this was the stop at the golden zone. So that would mean we'd be getting through. So let me draw it again. So for here, let's take this off so you can see it. All right, so here's our target. Well, if we're going here, we've already tagged the 618. So this would be, if I fatten this up a little bit, there's the 786. Right, that could play, but we got to go back one just to see if we're going to break there. Well, now look at that. All right, so now we get nice confluence. So we have all of those targets, plus we get the golden zone. Remember here, see here it is again, but you got to remember it's the alternating pivots. Remember this was a slight break. Since that broke, you take that ABC pattern. Let me recreate it. So here. Right, so see, we break the 6.5 here. So whatever algorithm was selling there, and you can see the reaction, they tried to hold it at the 50. Whatever's there gets stopped out. So they take the next 50, and they love this pattern. This is the one they love. So they love this ABC pattern. The next tag, look what we do right here at the 50. Right, so bounce off. So do you see the confluence there? I know that's hard to see. Let me get this. Let's see. So let me get this one off. Okay, so did you see the 50 here? So look at this confluence. Okay, so this is how you put things together. Do you see the cluster here? Let me get right on there. All right, so we have within a couple of, like half a cent, we've got the 50 and the 618, and what do we do? And the median line. All right at this pivot. All right where we hit right there. Okay, that is called a confluence cluster. So 1, 2, 3, massive confluence. Look at the reaction, just rejected hard. Now, if we're going to go up again, we got to get through the 50 of the first degree, but then this will be, right, so there's the 618 here, here's the 786. So again, all I'm doing is moving back one since we've already got that. So this would be a perfect slingshot, boom, right to that. So you might anticipate, so there's the target, so I would not stay long beyond that. I don't care what's happening. I would take, well, at the very least, I would take partial there. If you're in love with the project, great. But you know, if you tag that, there's likely you're going to give back half of it. It's going to retrace to do the 50. So I would, at the very least, take a partial there. But I sure would be, if we got that, I would sure be paying attention to what comes off of it. All right, again, assuming it comes down. And boy, I'd be looking for that big 3. So, interesting, right? So it starts with why are we looking here, right? Very high on their algo score. Then you go in, you start digging through it, and you say, hey, there's some extremely technical trading happening in here. I'm down on the 1 hour. That's just as ugly as all across the board in terms of looking at it daily. They're all ugly, but we certainly have technical trading in here, right? So this, I don't hate it, right? Very low risk. So stop on the 65, take it. You've got a very clear target. You know algos are in here. One to think about for the weekend. All right, so there you go. Right, there was more meat on the bone there than I thought when I first brought it up. So interesting. Okay, guys. So we got just a series of technical pivots now. It just reminds you, right? If you're interested in learning how to do this, we can teach you how to do it. You can come over and check us out. Find the links underneath this. We've also got a membership giveaway that we're doing. So you can find us if you're looking, and this is interesting to you. We can teach you how to do this. It's not that hard. Just take some practice. All right, guys. You have a good weekend. We'll catch up with you on Monday.